This episode of the Pain Education Corner is sponsored by the Comella Foundation. The Comella Foundation is committed to relieving pain naturally using osteopathic healing principles. Here at the Comella Foundation, we envision a world where people achieve their maximum potential by being empowered with knowledge and skills to heal themselves and others. This information is to be used for educational purposes only and not to be construed as medical advice. If you have any questions or concerns, please consult a licensed healthcare professional. Hello, this is Bill, Any Pain Guru, and welcome to the Pain Education Podcast, brought to you by the Comella Foundation. We have a special guest here. This is a buddy of mine that I've known for quite a while now, or at least over a decade. But I wanted to bring him onto the podcast to share his experience through some pain that it's unbelievable. When he shares his story, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. His name is Gene Smithson. So Gene, I want to welcome you to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah. Would you start? Would you share a little bit about your history and then get into what happened to you, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so my history, I'm just a regular guy. I've always been really pretty physically fit. I love working out, training and stuff like that. I was kind of a stunt man when I was younger. Like, we used to really enjoy doing crazy stuff. And then I started training in Systema. And I was, I guess the part that's interesting to your viewers is I was assistant teaching at a shooting seminar, and I got shot with a 9mm pistol. Took 5 rounds. One to the upper left arm, one to the right hand, and 3 through the lower abdomen. And that sort of set me off on a journey through the medical system and the process of dealing with, recovery from fairly significant injuries. And I think maybe more interesting is probably the psychological journey, and what that was like. So yeah, I'm here to share that and see if it helps anybody. Sometimes it feels like you're pretty alone, and maybe you're not, or if you feel alone, then, email me, call me, and I'll listen, because I probably kind of know what you're going through a little bit, at least.
Yeah. So you had this experience, shot 5 times, which, by the way, you have a book. You wrote a book, correct?
Yeah, that's true. It's called Shot, Healing, Hurt. It's available on Amazon if you want it. It's a little harder to find nowadays because it has the word healing hurt in the title, and they're getting pretty touchy about any material that has any word like healing in it, which is crazy.
Well, we'll make sure access to you or access to the book is available. We'll put it in the description below, so anybody watching this or listening to this is able to access that.
Yeah, and so my email's in there too. So that way, if somebody has some questions I can help with, they can email me. Sometimes just want somebody to listen,
Sure. So your experience, shot 5 times. You were in the hospital. You had how many surgeries?
I think 5. Yeah. I lost track a little bit, but I was in the hospital for 8 days, and then I went back to the hospital again, I think 5 months later, and had my last one. So over a period of 5 months, During that period of time, I was wearing a colostomy, and for the first 2 months, I was wearing a cast on one hand with pins in the fingers and stuff like that. And for the first 6 weeks, I was wearing a catheter. I mean, it's kind of like stuff people don't talk about too much, but
Sure.
I think for me, I'd rather just be, very open about my experience and how it, how it affected me, and hopefully changed me, ultimately for the better.
Mm-hmm. What was after your first surgery and you woke up? Share a little bit about what you may have been dealing with or the emotions that you were experiencing.
Yeah. I like to go back a little bit further if it's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the first thing is when I got shot, I felt, I mean, there's obviously it hurts, right? Or maybe it's not obvious. I don't know, but it hurts. I'll let you know that right off the bat.
Okay.
But there were a couple of really curious things. Like for me, it was a fascinating experience, honestly. And I don't want anybody else to have it, but it was fascinating. And I first I could feel the bullets going through my body,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt really ashamed, and it felt like they were leaving sort of shame and poisonous kind of fear in my body. And I think that's kind of important because I've worked with some athletes. I trained some athletes who were doing post-cancer recovery triathlon. And it's kind of important because when something attacks your body like that, your self-image is really hit hard. I don't know how to explain it, except I felt really ashamed and scared, and a lot of pain. But there was also this sort of omniscient awareness where, like, I was sort of aware of not sort of, I could see the people in the waiting room who were going to eventually be in the helicopter that came and got me. I could see where, my family and friends were and what they were doing at that moment in time. It's kind of bizarre.
You
And
were
then,
awake. You were awake, or this was
oh yeah, I never lost consciousness. I never, yeah, no, matter of fact, I was being shot and I was like, hey, stop shooting me. And then I started walking to my car. I keep a trauma kit in the trunk of my car, and I thought, I need to go to the hospital. I'm gonna go over here and patch myself up and drive myself to the hospital. And that didn't happen. I walked about 10 steps and went down on my knees. And then I was sitting there and I'm like, you can't be on your knees here, man. Get up. And so I didn't get up. I fell over on my side. But I believe it was about an hour and 15 minutes from the time I was shot to the time I was put under anesthesia for the first surgery. And I never lost consciousness or anything like that. It was interesting. The so when you if your injury is acute like that, sometimes you have adrenaline and you don't feel the full extent of the pain for maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and then that
mhm.
kicks in good. Um, it was interesting to see how it impacted the people around me. Like a lot of like guys that were, kind of tough guys or hard guys or whatever, just fell completely apart because we weren't in war. It was like, really unexpected. Like the danger was past, and so it was kind of a surprising emergency.
Mhm.
But the kind of happy-go-lucky guys were the ones who were able to really help me and uh, keep me alive, till the ambulance got there and then eventually a helicopter. So there's the important thing about that is so at least in my opinion is So when I got shot, there was sort of a little denial, right? Like I knew I was shot and I knew I was hurt pretty bad, but I don't think I realized how bad.
Hmm.
And, um, like I was joking around and stuff, and I actually use breathing a lot, and I train breathing, sort of my field of expertise, I guess. So that helped me manage the pain and my psychology and the people around me. It was pretty easy when everyone else was in distress to be strong, myself. But eventually, I wound up in the hospital, and that was funny. Uh, the doctor, they're telling me. He said, "You're not taking this serious enough." It's like, is me being serious going to help me at all right now?
Yeah.
No. And then I'm like, so, what's the big deal, man? I mean, so they put me under and they did some surgeries. Basically, they cut some sections out of my intestines. They put a colostomy bag on me, a
Hmm.
catheter, trimmed some meat off my arm that was hanging out, stuff like that. So then I was in the hospital in the first night. I don't really remember anything. My girlfriend has video of it, the breathing machines and everything going. And it's
Hmm.
kind of cool because it's like Darth Vader,
Yeah.
like that. Then when I woke up, I first the first thing was I was filthy, which I thought, they just brought me out of surgery. They would have cleaned me up or something, but I wasn't. I was filthy. I had blood all in my hair, fingernails, mud all over my body. Um, and I was really in a lot of pain. Like the one of the places I got shot that hurt the worst, I guess, was my hand.
Hmm.
Because the nerves there. And my dad asked me about my hand, and I said, it feels like I'm holding it underneath a rocket engine right now. I mean, it
Mm.
was, and I would go from, burning up to freezing cold, like just back and forth.
Sure.
Uh, yeah. I didn't really want to do any pain meds. They had me hooked up. Of course, I had nose tubes going everywhere, down my
Hmm.
nose, on my ear, through my stomach, everywhere. Um, but in the back of my mind, I had this idea that pain was a signal to my body to get busy healing, not to. I wanted to be uncomfortable. I didn't want it to be so intense that I was derailing my healing process, but I wanted it to hurt.
Hmm.
So it did a lot.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's a balance between you don't want to be so checked out from the pain meds that you don't know what's going on.
yeah.
And then you don't want to be, Rambo, so to speak, where you're trying to just gut it out. You want to find that balance between the two so you can work with it. Just like, the
Mhm.
Systema breathing, that piece where it's like, you don't want to overwhelm the neurology where you don't know what to do with it. But let me shut up because
No, that was my feeling exactly. And I think every person is different, I mean, and every injury is probably different too. And so there's no, prescribed uh, dosage or whatever. I don't think so. I think you have to have that sensitivity to know, like, hey, man, uh, I'm not sleeping. I'm in so much pain that I'm not giving my body a chance to do its best healing.
right.
Or, oh, you know what? I'm hitting this pain medication and my body is going, well, yeah, we're fine. We'll get to it. Don't worry. Um,
Hmm.
but for me, I really preferred to err on the side of pain, I guess. And I had several conversations with the doctor and my charge nurses and stuff about it. I guess charge nurses, they're the people that took real good care of me. And
Hmm.
I explained to them what I was doing. And they could see, you know, they monitor your vitals and they can see your affect, and they know, like, okay, mentally you're breathing through this, man, you're moving, you
Hmm.
have step ideas of what you want to do. And yeah, they for the most part let me do my thing. They shook
Hmm.
their head at me a couple of times. The last surgeon I had, he actually checked me out of the hospital himself, into his custody. And I was supposed to be there 5 days. I was there like 36 hours. And he walks me to an elevator, and we, like a doctor's elevator, and then take it down to the parking level. And he's like, "You got a car out here somewhere?" And I go, "Yes, sir, right over there." And he goes, "Before you go, I want to tell you, first off, you're the craziest and most inspirational patient I ever had." Like, thanks, man. I, I guess, so I don't know that our medical system is set up really to deal with people who want to participate in their recovery. Like, I would tell my doctors and surgeons, I would go, "Look, you're the subject matter expert, you're the chief operating officer, but I'm the CEO, right? This is my body and my life, and I'm going to listen to you very closely and very carefully, but ultimately, all these decisions need to be mine, you know."
Right.
And they seemed okay with that. So I was real lucky. Both of the surgeons that I spent the most time with were ex-military, so they sort of understood my mindset a little bit.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, that was that was a pretty intense.
Experience.
Yeah, yeah, man. Like, I started off, I just wanted to be able to sit up. And when you have some major surgery, like all your abdomen, my entire abdomen, from everything below the diaphragm muscle to the pubic bone was cut up, and, you know, massive open wounds. And so just wanted to sit up. And once I could sit up, I wanted to be able to go, 3 steps and sit down in a chair. And then I wanted to make it 6 or 7 steps to the bathroom, which was a joke because I didn't really need the bathroom. But go in there and brush your teeth, and it's, you're in bad shape, man, when all the people around you are like clapping and stuff when you made it 3 steps. And that's when this can't
Yeah.
be good. And to be honest with you, I was in so much, it's such an intense experience that you don't really get the big picture. It
Hmm.
starts to hit you later. Like when you're like, after I was discharged from the hospital the first time, I came back home. And there were nights when I was by myself, and that's when it really hits you, like, oh, how am I going to change this colostomy bag with one of my hands in a cast? You know, uh, what happened to me? I went from being, in pretty good shape, and now all of a sudden I look like a scarecrow. I lost, at the time, I lost 35 pounds, and in just like uh, less than 2 weeks, really. And
Wow.
yeah, it's shocking, right? And I don't know what happens. I guess when they cut you open as many different places and stuff as me, maybe your body goes into some kind of collagen producing overdrive or something. But you get some weird. Your body just goes crazy. It's really
Hmm.
strange. Horrible rashes, and those were the darkest moments. So like the initial injury and in the hospital and stuff like that, it was so intense that I was really focused on my job, which was to get better and you know be present for all that. But then later, when you're sitting there by yourself, that's when it can get kind of hard.
Hmm. What was the what's the drive? What was the motivation? How did you keep yourself moving forward? I mean, because there are times we all have not to that degree that you've experienced, but we all have when we're by ourselves, when things can be difficult, even in today's age. Like we were talking about it, how crazy life seems right now.
Yeah.
What drove you? What was the
Yeah.
motivation?
So first, I can say that for me, motivation shifted. At times it was a pretty flimsy motivation. Like in retrospect, you can go, man, I don't know that that was the best thing to drive you forwards. But so it changed. But I would say initially, it's habit, right? Like I used to compete in triathlons and stuff like that, and you just get in the habit of not quitting, right? So I had that uh, where I did races. I did one race where I tore the fascia on the bottom of my foot. I don't know
Oh,
if you've ever heard of that, but I mean, it's like
yeah,
somebody stabbing you in the foot with a knife, right?
yeah.
And I kept telling myself, I'm going to quit at the next place where I can get off the course, without being a nuisance. And I just never found that place. I just kept going to the next place and the next place and the next till I finished. And that's what it initially was. It was just habit, like I had trained myself to keep moving forwards. But then, uh, like I said, it's almost like you're in a little bit of denial at first. And then the kind of harsh reality, the starkness of it sets in. And there's one night, I hate to rehash the book for people who read it, but this is a turning point in motivation. There's two, and I'd like to say both of them. So one, I was at my house by myself, and I don't know, it was 2 or 3 in the morning, and I was having a lot of nightmares and stuff like that. And I got up and I walked to go to the restroom, and I mean, this is pretty graphic. So if this kind of thing bothers you, don't listen to this next part. So when you have a colostomy bag, like you kneel down in front of the toilet and you can empty the colostomy bag, right? You don't have to change it every time. Sometimes you can empty it and continue. Anyways, so I'm doing that. It's in the middle of the night, and I finished that, and I stand up and I looked and I saw myself in the mirror. And man, I mean, it was shocking, dude, because I was not overweight when I lost 35 pounds. And, not much sleep, lots of nightmares. You got plastic bag hanging off your stomach, plastic tubing coming out of your, urethra. You got your arm in a cast and all that, and you're standing there looking at myself, and I was like, you know, who's tough now, right? Because I always kind of had this idea, like hidden from everyone, but in the back of my head, like, oh man, I can survive. And looking in the mirror, that was the question, like, who's tough now, dude?
Mhm.
And so up to that was when I realized, uh, you know, I dealt with most of my problems through physicality, like in my life. Like if I had some failure in this area or that area, I could always run or lift weights or, grapple or fight or something. But I relied so much on my physical body to deal with, I get a divorce. Okay, it's no problem for me. I just ramp up the mileage, and ramp up the weight room sessions, and all of a sudden, that whole identity of myself as a physical being was just snatched. Like I was just
Mhm.
standing naked with nothing, because if I'm not that guy, who am I really?
Mhm.
And I looked in the mirror for quite a while, and I was like, I can do this. I can do this. And I don't know where that came from, but it was a really small voice. Like it was not, it wasn't Eye of the Tiger or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like really small voice. And when I got shot, it's kind of a Hollywood injury, right? It's exciting. So a lot of people knew about it, and a lot of people were helping me. Um, and one of the ways that people were helping was a lot of kids were sending me letters and cards and stuff. And after that, when I looked there and I said, you know, you can do this. I walked out and I started reading these letters. And there was something really hopeful. Like all the letters had bright colored, like they drew flowers, that were bigger than the person and the sun. I mean, you've seen children's drawings before,
Sure.
and they would write down there, we love you, Sensei Gene, or,
Mm,
take care, Gene, or whatever. And uh, that was big. I mean, that was really big,
mhm,
especially in that moment, because when I left one gene behind and I was in this place and I didn't know who I was. I just knew that I wanted to try.
mhm,
And then so the sustenance, right? The next thing that fed into my being was that there were these, little beings out there who had no agenda, just full of joy and hope, and that uh, it sort of started dawning on me that what was happening to me was happening to all the people who I was kind of part of their story.
mhm,
Like, you know what I mean? It's real easy to get inside my head and think, oh, this, but I see it like, oh, this is impacting, my sons. This is impacting these children who are just, you know, they're just clean. They're not messed up, like most of
mhm.
us adults. And
Right.
so that was, and so that was a good thing. That started feeding into the motivation. Is like, and the outpouring of help from people and kind words from people and prayers from people. That sort of became my next piece of motivation. It's like, I don't want to let these people down. They some of these people were sending money. Like I still don't really know who all helped because a lot of it was done anonymous through a trust. It had to be anonymous, but I know some of them. And I mean, when somebody goes out of their way like that to help me, at least I was like, I owe them my very best effort at recovery, and not
Mhm,
just recovery, because I don't want to cover anything up at renewal. I want to be something better than I was before. So that was one of the motivations.
mhm.
And the you want to hear another one like
Yeah.
right now?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
One of the things that I started doing was walking. Right. To me, that was the first thing. It's like, okay, I'm gonna walk. And I mean, at first, I when I got home, I could barely make it to the end of my driveway, and I have a very short driveway. So, uh, and then I try to make it to my mailbox, which is, I think my mailbox might be 150. I don't even think it's 150 feet from here, to be honest with
Mhm,
you. Uh, but I I started noticing, like, when you're home like that during the day. I was not normally home during the day, but I was home during the day and I saw other people out walking too, right? And it was all, you could kind of see everyone had their own kind of story of why they
mhm,
were walking. This one guy, he was an elderly man, and he walked with his dog. And this dog, I think this dog must have been 50. I don't know. But he would see me walking and he would say, "Don't worry, man, this dog won't bite you." And I'm looking at that dog and I'm thinking, you know what? I can't run. I can't even walk fast, but I don't think that dog could catch me if it wanted to.
uh-huh,
You know what I mean? This poor old dog was just like at the end of days, and the old guy was too. But we got to see each other, couple times a day. I was walking 3 times a day because that's what I could do, and I was doing what I could. And I noticed that the old man, he stopped walking, and he started like he would sit at the end of his driveway. He had one of those walkers that has a built-in chair, and he would sit in that. And then one day, he didn't come out anymore. And I, in my mind, I said, okay, movement is life. If you stop moving, you're gonna die. So
Mm-hmm.
that was another motivator, right? To show gratitude to other people who were helping me, and to move, just move. You know, don't back off of the movement. If it's 2 steps I could take, if it was 10, it didn't matter. I was gonna move. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Remember trying to do push-ups the first time.
Mm-hmm.
First off, I was terrified because I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen if I try to do a push-up. You know, my core has got staples and stitches and bags and stuff on it. If I try to do a push-up, is it just going to rip apart and everything's going to, guts are going to fall out on the floor or what? But I got where I could do 4 push-ups on my knees,
Mm-hmm.
uh, push-up handles. And something else kind of occurred right about that time is I realized uh, I have become really arrogant, like before I got shot. Not in an overt way, but in I didn't understand people being scared, really. I just
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, you know. And once I had that, I was scared, man. I was really fragile. And you want to hear a story about being scared? That's kind of
Yeah,
fun.
absolutely.
I'm walking, man. We got this neighborhood cat, and I'm walking, and this freaking cat starts stalking me like this. How, like cat, a regular cat, not a
Huh.
mountain lion or a cougar. A
Okay.
freaking cat is stalking me, like you know how they'll go from bush to bush like that, right? And I remember, I'm thinking, I'm like, this dang cat is gonna jump and knock me down and start biting and clawing me. I can't get away. I can't run. I mean, once I hit the ground, I can fight, but it's gonna do some damage, you know. So me and this cat have this sort of standoff, man, where I'm walking and it's stalking, and I stop and I look, and anyway, then uh, you know, it wasn't too much later, a few days later, and I was walking again, and then it was just back to being like a normal cat. Like it would come up there and rub against your leg, you know, like it wanted you to pet it. But having fear, I was afraid of a cat, like legitimately, seriously afraid of a cat, you know, and having fear. You know, if somebody bumps into me, I got a piece of intestine sticking out my body, hanging outside my belly, you know. So having fear again really helped me feel more compassionate towards people who feel
Mm-hmm.
fear. Like nowadays, people will come to my class. I had a lady come to my class last night, and she said she was nervous. And you know, but before I got hurt, I would be like, "Ah, man, don't worry. You know, there's nothing to it. Just jump in. It's fine." And now I was like, I can hear in her
Mm-hmm.
voice she's nervous, you know, and I understand and can relate to that. So
Mm.
I got a lot of good stuff out of this whole experience. Maybe that's one of them, being a little bit less arrogant.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Pain Education Corner. If you have a special talent or skill to relieve pain and you'd like to become a guest on our show, visit us at thecomellafoundation.org/interview. Help us spread the word on eliminating pain and suffering in the world. That's thecomellafoundation.org/interview. In that vein, where do you find, because some people could have fear and they're paralyzed by that fear.
Yeah.
And if they would never move from that place, being paralyzed from the fear. You can name it pain. You can paralyze from the pain. And then you have other people that will ignore the fear, ignore the pain, and continue to push through it. Where have you found in your experience when you need to be a cheerleader for that person that is afraid or in pain, to push them out of their comfort zone? And when do you need to be the drill instructor to go, okay, unless you face this, unless you begin to look at this, you're going to be stuck here forever? Like, how have you found that through your experience to find that balance between those two?
For me, it's pretty easy, really.
Okay.
The first thing you have to do is truly connect to the person. Like you have to see them, and they have to see you. Like a lot of times, if you're just talking, they can be nodding their head, or but you know that they can't hear you. You have to be with them in that. And sometimes you put your hand on them, or you wait and you position yourself until they can really, really, really like that, right?
Yeah.
And then you can say, okay, man, I know. Take one step with me, one step. Yeah. And so I used to, I can do the drill instructor, believe me.
Sure. You're a former Marine, correct?
No, sailor.
Sailor. Sorry.
Yeah. Here's my joke for any Marines who are listening to your podcast. So the Marines, it's just a little kind of sub-department of the Navy. And the proper reply from any Marine is, that's correct, it's the men's department. So there you go. That's a joke for your sailors and your Marines.
Okay.
But I can do drill instructor. I find that I don't really need it at all anymore. Like, I don't need it. I really don't. Like, if I have a group of people and I believe that they're not challenging themselves, I'll stop and I'll go, and I connect first. Like really genuinely, like, hey, can you guys hear me? Yeah, this is not good work. Okay, we got to dig a little deeper. I'm not sure what's keeping you guys from going to the next place for your training, but we got to get there. Work way better than yelling at somebody or belittling somebody or something like that. Yeah. And and then there also, as part of humility, is like, you understand that there are some people that have shut down so hard and so far that they're not ready yet, for whatever reason. And I mean, that's a hard thing, but that's how it is. I mean, the last time I was in the hospital, this was what I was going to tell you earlier, but they could, the whole floor that I was on, they could see how I went about recovery. Like, if they had these things they put on your calves and they inflate and they pressurize your calf so you don't get blood clots from laying there or whatever. And I'm like, I need those, dude. I can squeeze my calves. I can walk, right? I can flex my ankles. I don't need a machine to do that work for me. I do it myself. And then right away, like, I don't think I'd been out of surgery a little over an hour, because I woke up and this dude who's a nurse, he showed me a picture of my belly with the colostomy bag gone, like and it was like, I was like, and I think I had been maybe an hour and a half or something. I got up and I started walking. I mean, if you can call it walking, I got my IV thing like this, and like shuffling around the floor. But anyway, so they asked me to go talk to this guy. He was a young guy. He was in his early 20s. I think he was 24, something like that, 23. And he had been doing some CrossFit exercise. I don't remember, um, I think he was jumping off a box or jumping on a box or something, but he was doing it while he was doing something with a kettlebell too. I don't remember.
Oh,
Anyway,
geez.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, dude, you will appreciate this. I mean, he
Okay.
just destroyed his knee. I mean, just bam, right? So they got the dude in there and they did surgery, and the dude wouldn't get up. He would not get out of bed. I think they told me, now, I don't know because I'm not a medical person, but they told me, they said, if he doesn't get up and start moving, he will die because this kid would just lay in there in the bed.
Huh.
And they're like, can you go talk to this kid and say something to him?
Hmm.
You know? And I went over there and they took me into his room and I talked to him a little bit. And it's kind of like the dude, you know, I saw footage. I think it was real footage actually from inside the one of the Twin Towers after 9/11.
Hmm.
Like streaming down the stairs, right?
Hmm.
Trying to get out. And there's this one guy, and he was healthy 30s, no no physical problems at all. And he just sat down on the stairs and refused to move.
Huh.
And people, it's like he quit. He just
Hmm.
quit. And you could see people trying to help him, you know, and he just quit. And that was how this kid was. It's like for some reason, you know, and I think if I would have had more time, I could have helped that guy a little, but you can't help so much by, like, there's a lot of things you can say. You can say, remember the people who are part of your story, right?
Hmm.
If you can get someone outside, I think nature starts to help people wordlessly. Um, Sometimes water, you know, there are physical things that don't use arguments and logic and reason. They touch your nervous system somehow and make you want to live. You
Hmm.
know, I just wrote a fiction book actually, and there's a guy who like has almost the same injuries that I had and everything, but in real primitive times, right? And he lost a loved ones. In the book, he lost the will to live. So this lady is like a medicine woman, and she ties him down because subconsciously, when he starts to fight against those bonds, it's his nervous system trying to make, trying to say, you want to live, you want to
Hmm.
move. Even your psychology has quit. Your heart is broken, your mind is broken, but as an organism, something about you wants to survive.
Hmm.
So I I have more success with that sort of influence on people than with, like, you know, rah rahs, because a person, by the time they get really really messed up, really sick, or, you know, maybe they have a terminal diagnosis or something like that,
Hmm.
anything I can say almost rings hollow, you know, other than the fact that, hey, I've been scared, I've been in pain, you know, I get it. I'm with
Hmm.
you. I'll just sit here with you and say nothing. I will hold your hand. Um, but there are ways to reach people who are even further gone, right? And I think it's through water, nature. Uh, if they will argue with you about anything, it means they're not done yet, right? It means that some piece of them, even subconsciously, wants to live, and
Hmm.
that's when you connect to that. Yeah.
Hmm.
But they have so much going on, turning them so far inside themselves that sometimes they really believe they don't want to live. So if you can
Hmm.
show their body does,
Hmm.
that's a start. Yeah.
Yeah.
How I got off down that trail, dude.
Well,
Sorry.
no, it's a great point, and I hadn't thought about elements elements of nature, water, fire, or like mineral, rock. I'm
Yeah.
thinking weight. I think of weight.
So when you're in a hospital room or, you know, first off, it is horrible. I mean, they do everything they can to make it better, but it's horrible. I mean, you're a piece of meat, basically. Those poor people that work in the healthcare industry, I know they care, but they
Mhm.
see you over and over and over every day. And at some point, they got to get exhausted or they have to learn to separate themselves from that in some way.
Mhm.
So you're in this sterile environment. I mean, it's horrific, really. I think they've actually done research showing that hospitals that have a garden that you can go to have a much faster and better recovery rate.
Mhm.
But if you can get a person outside, get them outside, man. If it's raining, so much
Mhm.
the better. If it's a thunderstorm, whatever. But sometimes you can't get a person outside. You can literally take like a pitcher of water and put your hand in there and
Mhm.
wiggle your fingers in the water. Or you can take a little plant, that has real dirt. And
Mhm.
like there's something about it that calls to a primitive part of us that's
Mhm.
beyond. I think it's beyond, the contemporary psychology. I think it's deeply embedded in the human brain. Imagine I'll give you an example. Let's say you had somebody who's really despondent. They pretty much want to die, right?
Mhm.
If you shove their head underwater and hold them, they will fight to get back to the surface. They
Right.
can't. It's weird, but so I'm not a doctor. I'm not nearly as intelligent as any of the people that you've had on your podcast. But somebody out there should look into this. Like, how do we talk to that part of
Mhm.
people who are struggling? And
Like
and
the yeah.
that's the first piece. It's like you do want to live. Your body wants to live. How? Let's move it.
Yeah.
Move it. Yeah.
Yeah. I just like what you said about putting a person's head underwater. They won't just like lay there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was, history. I've been through a lot as far as like with my daughter and things like that. And there, I lived 100 feet from a river, like deep enough river that I can get in and dunk myself. And I would do that from September, October through March, April. And I
Move.
know we would do the bucket over our
Yeah.
head, but there was something about the pain that my body felt with that cold immersion that motivated some part of me that made everything else in life seem simple. Everything else in life seem easy.
100%.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I don't want to go off in any weird directions. But if you think about the people who, yeah, I am a weird direction.
yeah,
If you think about the folks who are making laws and stuff like that, a lot of them live in such a controlled environment. They haven't been rained on, they haven't been cold, they haven't been hot, they haven't been sore or tired or hungry.
yep,
When is the last time they were hungry? And these people have completely lost touch with what it means to be a human being.
right.
Focus on the cerebral and this, the psychological aspect. Uh, and maybe some people the spiritual aspect, but we're a whole there's a gestalt to us. And anyways, yeah. I now I don't know that there's any doctors that are going to grab that 23-year-old dude by the shirt and shove his head in a bucket of water and hold it there till he fights his way back up. But uh I don't know. It's a place for research for somebody smarter than me.
Well, ironically, or maybe not, that's what we're working on here with the Comella Foundation here in Asheville, converting a former garage space We have a Previlo set up. So we're working with that, a little bit of kettlebells, a little bit of weights. Of course, the breathing you can do anywhere. We just got a cold plunge tub and an ice maker. So we'll be able to do the cold plunge thing. And I'm working on that's something that is in the background, working on pulling together a fundraiser for a sauna.
All right.
Like cedar, wood fired cedar sauna that can fit eight to 10 people in there at a shot, and do the cold plunge in the sauna, going back and forth in terms of connecting with those aspects.
Yeah, I think there's something vital to that stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I think I don't think stasis is good for human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Vladimir has said, Vladimir, our teacher, Vladimir.
Of course.
He said one time, there are no good habits. And I sort of tie that to this. It's like, dude, you need to get cold. You need to get rained on. You need to be hot. You need to work with your body sometimes. Like, take a shovel and a freaking wheelbarrow and move some dirt from one place to another. Plant something. Yeah, I think the potential for healing in those is huge. To finish my healing, I don't know, where we're at in terms of timeline on your podcast. So,
Mm-hmm.
But the final, I mean, there is no final. Okay, if you get seriously sick or seriously injured and you survive it, you don't want to be the same as you were before. You want to be better than you were before.
Mm-hmm.
Kinder, more compassionate, more present to the miracle that's taking place around us. I mean, that's one of the hardest parts of healing, is the when you're dying or in severe pain or torment, everything is like lit up. Like, everything is special. Every word, every "I love you," right?
Mm-hmm.
Every freaking hug, uh, riding in the car, put your hand out the window. Uh, it's just really vivid,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you heal, like, everything about our culture is trying to pull you back into this sleepwalking routine, man, where, you wake up to the alarm. You forgot the birds wake you up, right? Now you're waking up to some stupid alarm. You go do stuff that you don't care about, and you forget to look at the people that you're doing it with. Like, that was, I mean, when you're in that sort of situation, you can see sometimes quite clearly. Anyways, I digress. Yeah, for me, going to the ocean, right, and standing in the waves, letting the waves wash me. I was really scared to have that much power hitting my body, but I knew it would really help me. So I went down, just to the Gulf Coast here, and it was probably in the 50s. It was chilly for Texas, and so cold, and these powerful waves washing over me. And that's when I was like, okay, there's this vast thing that's so vast, and each wave is convinced that it's, you know, real, but somehow it flattens back out, and the next one comes, and the next one, and it is real, but it's also part of something much, much larger. So again, this elemental thing really sensed something soothing, like to my nervous system, beyond my cognitive, orderly, logical mind. That's so soothing that you're gonna be okay. Yeah, I think a lot of people get that just by going and watching the ocean. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I got
Gene,
off on a. Sorry, brother.
it was great.
All
It's
right,
great.
man.
No, this is good. I think it's what people lose in their pain is their reference point, their perspective. They get too overwhelmed. And I believe your experience is showing how they could begin to reestablish that and put purpose and meaning behind the pain. So it isn't just pain. Because we can get too caught up in woe is me and wallowing in the self-pity of the experience, the physical experience, and lose track of all of the lessons and gifts that are being presented in relationship to that pain.
Yeah, and there definitely are. There are so many gifts and wonders that you get to experience. I do want to say one more thing.
Sure.
This is for anybody out there who really is in pain. Okay. You know, and I know there's one person that's, I mean, you're taking it out on them and they're the one who would never let you down. Be careful with your caretakers, right? Try to take care of them because, yeah, that's a difficult task to sit there and watch someone you love go through so much pain.
Mm-hmm.
So show them some love back. That's it. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
I want to say,
Gene.
like, if people watch this and they want to, if they feel alone,
Mm-hmm.
email, man, for real.
We're going to have a button below this video on the Comella Foundation website that they could click on the button. It'll bring up a thing to email you directly, and it'll send that straight to you. We'll get that set up here in the
Yeah,
short
I'm not
term.
a doctor. I'm not a shrink. I don't know much about anything, but I can read every word you want to share and be there with you. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So awesome, Gene. Thank you for your time. Appreciate you taking the time to share with us. This is awesome. Once again, we'll put all of your information, your contact information, whatever that is, social media down below in the description of the video.
Yeah.
And people will be able to reach out to you directly. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for taking the time. This was a really special one.
Well, thank you, man. When you get ready to do that fundraiser for your sauna, let me know.
Okay, great. This is well, thank you. I'm a little speechless, like trying to like wrap this up, but this is Bill Paravano, the knee pain guru, thanking Gene for being here, thanking you for listening, as well as on behalf of the Pain Education Podcast and the Comella Foundation. We appreciate you all. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you for tuning into this week's segment of the Pain Education Corner. Join us next week for another conversation on natural healing methods to eliminate pain. To learn more about the work we do at the Comella Foundation, please visit our website at the Comella, Comella Foundation.org.